and it's the paramount topic, the paranormal state of the black conscious mind. Last week I talked about the difference between consciousness, education, and scholarship. And it was funny that after I did that show, that Uncle Ek with the Arm and Watch Squad dropped a video, and he was in that video praising a lot of our black scholars, Sheikh Anta Diop, Theophile Obenga, John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, and he was praising these scholars and showing that there is a black tradition, that this information is not purely coming from white people, and that there was a drive of our ancestors for us to know who we are. And these are the scholars that exist before the ones that we have today. And a lot of scholars that we have today are moving in that tradition. And I'm saying that the message that I had last week was not an attack on our scholarship and not the value of those scholars, the value of those historians. And I think it's very needed. It's very important. We do need these scholars and the work that they are doing. This information is very valuable. But I was only distinguishing scholarship and being a historian from being conscious. A white male could be a black scholar, can be an African historian. White people can be anthropologists, tomb raiders. They can decode the hieroglyph. A lot of white people can know our history and know information about us and have the resources to go explore this information and look into it. But that does not make them conscious. They just have a historical understanding of the legacy of our people. And some of us have become tourists, and we've become no more than white scholars about our information. We just like them. They go and look at the tomb and look at the pyramids, and they're just tourists looking at that body of work objectively. And many of us have become that. We've become tour guides through our own greatness. We have buried our greatness and buried our potential with the mummies. We have buried ourselves. We have hidden the greatest treasure that we ever possess, which lies within us right now. Some of us have become that. So that's not to take away from the scholars that have brought information that has helped us in our journey of the awakening of our consciousness. I said today that consciousness back in the day meant that your third eye was open. And out of your third eye being open, you seek to put what you know that you know together through interfacing with scholarship, history, and information. But the knowing within yourself is beyond the books, the scholarship, or the information, and it leads you to it. And what's crazy about it, it leads you to it, but it also takes you beyond it. Because some people won't go beyond the scholarships, the books, the history, and the information. They won't go into the embodiment and the manifestation of what these things represent. Some of us have been more of the embodiment of what these things represent. And I want to talk about that tonight. The scholarship is a dimension. True consciousness is retrocognition. And it is precognition. And it's a combination of living in a retrocognitive and precognitive awakening right now. What do I mean by that? Retrocognitive. Retrocognitive is dealing with the past. It's dealing with your awareness of being cognizant of something that a past event that occurred, and you living in the awareness of that event. Then we also have something called past life regression. That's the ability through hypnotherapy for you to experience other past lives that you have lived in. And we also have precognitive, and that's your awareness of an event or things that can occur in the future. When we talk about prophecy and having insight in things that are to come, and be able to take information of what we become aware of and put that together to have insight of what is going to happen into the future, what we call precognition. Some people read this information and they don't know what the hell is going to happen. They just information junkies. They just follow the news and they're unable to put it together to understand and see a bigger picture and put it in bigger context to be able to look and see the future. If you're conscious, you can see what is about to happen in the future. You have a feeling of it, and you can't deny when somebody comes to you with a message of what the future entails. You're precognizant. You're able to see it. You're able to be aware of that. So you're not just studying information for information's sake. You're putting this together, and it's making a bigger picture for you. Like what's going on in Texas, the floods and the tornadoes. That is the spirit and energy of Sandra Bland coming as a whirlwind to destroy Texas. The angry spirit of that sister destroyed that city in Texas, knocking out the power and leaving over 40,000 people homeless. That was nothing but the spirit of Sandra Bland. See, when you're precognizant, through precognition, you are aware of these things. You follow? That's what being conscious is. So a lot of people getting information, but they can't. It's not adding up to the future for them. They can't use it practically to navigate in this world. They don't have this insight, this awareness into things to come, to be able to have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to move around in this matrix reality that we're in. So that's the importance of precognition and being conscious. Retrocognition is the ability to see things in the past events. That means that you can look at people now and you can tell, you can see their ancient selves. You can see things as they were then in the now. And you're seeking to come to expand that remembrance. You're seeking for that remembrance to go further. In some of these books, you know, you're just touching them, just glancing over the information, just your eyes touching that information, touching the visuals of Kemet, of Egypt, of the tombs, just touching it. It's bringing your mind back and restoring your awareness of your divinity and your greatness in the present moment. And that's the ability to touch objects and get deeper insight from the past of what they represent. And you're touching things with your eyes. Some of us going into museums and actually touching some of the artifacts, but when we look at the pictures, we're touching the imagery with our eyes. And they can awaken us if we're open. If our third eye is open and we are sensitive, they can awaken us and bring us back and give us premonitions and intuition. What I'm talking about tonight is the paranormal state of the black conscious mind. When we talk about the paranormal, we're talking about your paranormal abilities, your psychic senses. This is what makes you conscious, not rhetoric or dogmatism and reading books and regurgitating information and sitting at lectures. All that can help you put it back together. But you have to have a sense of a greater feeling of what the puzzle is. Consciousness is knowing what the puzzle is. Scholarship and information is helping you put it in formation. It's helping you kind of put it back together. It's like a person, and I read a book called Holographic Universe, and it talked about people that were reborn and they remembered their past lives, and they could kind of take you to the address of where they used to live at and their old family. And the more they would get to that address and get to the place where they used to live, the more information that would start coming back to them. Because, see, the information was already in them. The word educate comes from the Latin word educare, which means to draw within. So the knowledge is already inside of us if we really are conscious. So we're on the information gathering. That's what we're in. That's what we're doing. We're doing information gathering, remembering, putting, the members of our consciousness back together. So it's beyond just education and scholarship. That is only aiding you in jarring your memory, jolting your memory, because you have somewhat of amnesia. And not as due to 400 years of slavery, but all human beings who have not spiritually awakened suffer from an amnesia. because they can't tap the information of the Akashic records. They can't tap the information, of eons and eons of our existence on this planet. They barely can remember, 10 years ago. You follow, less than remembering the ancient past. So when you become retrocognitive, and you begin to walk around in a retrocognitive experience, you look and see people you remember. That's why when you start talking about soulmates and using these types of terminology, you have become to a level of awakening where you can recognize people that you've been existing, spirits and energies and vibrations that you have existed with on this planet for eons. So you start talking about soulmates and people talking about being attracted to people that they have a deeper sense of knowing beyond this particular lifetime. You start having more deja vus when you live in a retrocognitive experience, because to some degree it's already happened. And you're re-experiencing what has already occurred. But when you have a retrocognitive awareness, then you become more aware that this has already happened, which makes you precognitive, which makes you aware of what is going to happen. See, this is what consciousness is, and we don't want to talk about this. People get spooky when you start talking about this stuff, but this is what led people, to certain conversations, to certain events, to certain spaces, to certain books, to certain information. You would never got there if your consciousness was not already awakened. You have to already become conscious to become conscious. Follow me with that. You have to already become conscious. Be conscious in order to become conscious. And what is conscious? It's a paranormal state of the black conscious mind, where you're tapping into these different abilities. You also are using the information to try to explain and articulate an awareness that you exist in to others. It's awareness that is beyond explanation and is beyond the information and data of this particular time that we live in. Even though this is an information age, the true explanation of consciousness is beyond any information in this information age. It is beyond this age. It is beyond where man considers himself to be right now in his advancement and his growth and development. Truly being conscious is beyond all of that. But in being conscious, we attempt to utilize the information that is here to make people aware of the fact and the reality that we have been here before. So we're using information, history, knowledge, the tombs, the pyramids, right? We're using this information in order to deal with people that are asleep, to give them some notion of our presence on this planet before now, because they don't see it. They're not living in that awakened state. So we're just kind of using the information to just, let them know, we have a history. We've been here before. We're ancient people. We built the pyramids. We built civilizations, plumbing. We're the Moors. We're just trying to tell them so that they don't think we're crazy as hell till they wake up. But in no way do we need that information to justify our awareness. Our awareness needs no justification. It's in our genetics. It is in our DNA. It is unavoidable and inescapable. And if we stay centered in that awareness, we will not fail. We will definitely succeed, and what is within us will come out of us. But we try to use this information to just kind of appeal to others. We're really dumbing ourselves down with this information that has been presented by these scholarships, because they're only touching the surface of the depths of who we are and what we embody. It's barely scratching the surface, but it's just enough for them to be like, okay, well, I know there's something more to this. I know there's something more than us being slaves and getting off a boat and just being here now under these corporations, under white supremacy in America. I know there's something more than that, so I'll look at this information. While they know and have a educated guess or an assumption that there's something more than that, those that are truly conscious embody the fact that there's something more than that. This is a fact. They are the very embodiment of that. And once again, they live in a retrocognitive and precognitive experience of that reality, and they're walking around in that every day. Some people are seeing limitation. The retrocognitive and precognitive are seeing unlimited and infinite eternal possibilities. They're seeing their highest potential. They're not seeing the limitations, so they don't have the fear, they don't have the lack, and they do not have the doubt, because they are aware of themselves on a very higher level of an advanced level of performance. We're walking around with the awareness of the spiritual world. Without all the metaphysical information, some people have that subtle awareness of the spiritual world. And they're living with that. They're walking around with that knowing, with that understanding. That's conscious. I'm going in. Now, somebody who was conscious of who they are said, you know what? How do I communicate this information? How do I communicate this awareness that I've been here before? I know we something great. I'm going to bed having these past life regressions, these astral projections. How do I tell somebody else? How do I get other people to see that I'm not crazy as hell? I'll show them history. To show them that the possibility that we existed in this way, that there's some evidence of proof that people that look just like us, the us that we know we are, that are aware, walk this planet. When you have this paranormal mind state, you also are aware of other beings beyond this particular planet, beyond this dimension of consciousness that you can interface with. You're aware of power that you have and possess beyond what has been dictated to you by other human beings that are limited to this particular planet that we're on. When you have that paranormal mindset, you are aware of power that you have beyond what has been dictated to us or taught to us within this system and within this matrix. People telling you, no, you can't do it. No, you don't have that power. You don't have the ability. We ain't going to be able to do it. To even begin to look at what everybody says the white man has. The drones, the money, the weapons, and the military. The only way you would go up against that is if you had some type of realization of paranormal ability that you had. Some type of paranormal mindset. Those who exist in that paranormal mindset are also able to decode the abnormal. I'm going in. So when we talk about consciousness, the conscious person with the paranormal mind can decode what is considered abnormal experiences, understand the nature, the reason, and the purpose behind what other people consider abnormal experiences. That there is a thin line between the abnormal and the paranormal. When the conscious sees the abnormal, they are also aware of the paranormal reason for what we consider to be abnormal for us. So the so-called true conscious person can decode the abnormal. That's another paranormal ability of the black conscious mind. See, I'm telling you all this to take you beyond just the rhetoric. I got this information, I want to debate, I wanted this, I wanted that. That's only a certain level. They're debating in colleges and universities. The politicians are debating one another. That's a part of the scholastic institutions. That does not necessarily make you conscious. When you are truly conscious and in the knowing, and you know absolutely nothing to debate. To debate is to doubt what you know. And to entertain the antithesis of what is true for you, if it is really true for you. So the truly conscious do not debate for themselves. There's no need to. They know that they know that they know that they know. and they're gathering information to put the knowing into physical context and to bring it into manifestation in this life. They are re-manifesting what they are retrocognizant of. That's deep. They're manifesting it back. We are the same beings returning, like it says in your Book of the Dead, coming forth by night and by day. That is symbolic, that we're constantly coming back. Some people are caught, and I'm about to put this down to you. They're caught in certain past life regressions. They're caught in certain retrocognitive realities, states of awareness, where they only remember certain tribes, certain generations, certain dynasties. But everybody in the conscious community that is conscious are retrocognizant. Give you an example. The Moors, you see them trying to put back an ancient reality back together. They're wearing the fezzes. They dressing how we did in Spain, right? They're dressing how we did in West Africa. They're trying to put it back together. The Yoruba is going back to ancient African religion and spirituality. The Hebrew Israelites is you see them out there looking like Vikings or trying to dress like we did in Israel. You see the Kemetic people trying to put on a copper jewelry and wear their stones, right? Their amethyst and their quartz. They're trying to get back into their crystals, their onyx and their obsidians. They're trying to, put the garbs back on. Why? Because they are living in a retrocognizant paradigm where they're being hunted by the past them that's trying to remanifest itself in the present moment. So when you're trying to do that, when you're living in that retrocognizant reality that I'm calling conscious, the information, it'll just start coming to you. The language will start coming back to you. All of it will come back to you because it is you. It is in your DNA. It's not just something to study. It is who you are, the original language. You made it up. You wrote it. It's simply who you are. And then we talk about Dr. Malachi York. I got to bring him into the picture. Because Dr. Malachi York, it don't get no more retrocognizant than Dr. Malachi York. He brought Egypt to Georgia. He brought us Atlantis. He built the pyramids. He brought back the Assyrian rituals. He allowed us to relive ancient ceremonies. He brought the language back. You could not do that if you were not retrocognizant. There's no way that you can bring that back. That nobody has done that, has brought Egypt and put it right before us like that. Why? Because he was living in then now. Some of us are not just looking at then. Some of us are still living in then now, and we're trying to formulate now into what some people thought was then. But if we are who we were then, if that was us, then is really now. And who's ready to bring about, to bring forth the thenness and the nowness? But some people say, well, you can't do that. You got to read these books and study this and study that. And I ask them, well, how many books and how much studying did they read to do what they did? Because all the books and reading and studying, we don't have nothing but a lot of theories. We don't know how they have built a pyramid, and as smart as we consider ourselves to be right now, I don't see none of these so-called scholars building pyramids and putting it back together. The closest that we had to somebody making any effort to do that was Dr. Malachi York. And the one who was closest to doing that told us that he was from somewhere else. He was from another planet, that he was from Sirius B, or he was from planet Risk. He was living in a retrocognitive state. And some people say, oh, he's went through different religions. Well, that's because you are all those different religions, which are time periods. You are all those time periods. And those time periods, are chronologically in sync. So you went through all of them. You was the Moors, you was the Hebrew Israelites, you was Kemetic, you was Cush, you was the Sumerian, you was the Atlantean, you was the Nagaru. You were all these different entities and beings. You went through all these stages. You keep coming back over and over again. This is a reoccurring thing for you. So you were all of them. So Dr. Malachi York took you through all of those schools of thoughts, which were representative of different historical stages of self-realization that you went through. He took you through all of the chambers. Do you follow? Because you were all of these at different times and different periods. And now we're debating, we're arguing different retrocognizant points. Some saying I'm the ancient Israelite, and other people saying, well, we're the ancient Asiatic black man, because Buddhism is older than all of the religions. Some people saying, well, we're the Moors. We all of them. It depends on how deep does your consciousness and your remembering and your awakening goes back. That's the one you identify with. Some people say, well, I don't identify with slave history or being a slave and all this. I don't identify with that. Because I know I was a king or I was something great back in ancient times. Yes, you were, and you was a goddamn slave too. It's just how far does your memory go back? So one person say, well, I was just a slave. Oh, they're correct. Another person say, well, we were the original Native Americans. They're correct. And if another person say, well, we're the ancient Israelites, we're the Phalasians, we're the Ethiopians, they're right. If another person say we're the Cushites, the Dravidians, they're right. If they say we're the Cometians, they're right. Whatever they say, they're actually right. It just depends on what state is your awareness taking you back to. True consciousness is about self-realization and trying to bring into manifestation as much of your own awakening as you possibly can about who you are. Not your knowledge comparative to another individual's, but your own self-awareness of who you are, that you are tapping into and bringing forth into your very existence right now. Well, where people can see that you embody who you say that you were, and that you know that who you are. You follow? So it's about consciousness is about self-realization. Not book realization, not scholarship realization, but self-realization. Your own memory, your own awakening. You follow? For some, that awakening will take them back to when we were on other planets and on other planes and existing in other different dimensions of reality. You follow? And we were all everything that is every living organism, we were all of that. So some people saying, we evolved from monkeys. They just only could remember when they was that goddamn monkey. They can't go back any further than that, before we were monkeys. You follow? But the movie Planet of the Apes was telling you that monkeys ain't even really from fucking here. So something seeded the planet with the monkeys. And what are the monkeys? A retardation of higher beings and entities that are no longer here anymore? So maybe you're not from the monkey, but you who the monkey is from. But you got to wake your mind up to more and higher information. We did not become conscious just to find out what the white man has to offer, because it would be no reason to become conscious. Everybody educated would be conscious, and we could simply just leave it at that. But we know none of the white man's information, none of the Tamahu's information is turning us into no superconscious beings. It has done nothing for us but trained us and prepared us to work and be slaves under him and under his reality. So many of us have escaped that. We dropped out from that. We left that so that we really can tap the consciousness of who we are, which is beyond being a slave to him and his reality, or being subject to his reality. Because we know that his history is too short, that our freedom is older than him, and that we existed and ruled on this planet before he was ever even thought of. So once we come into the ancient knowing of who we are, there's no way that we can justify being under the white man, because it makes absolutely no sense. We would have to be living in an encapsulated perspective of who we are that is trapped in modern day time. And we have to astral travel and get into the self-conscious time machine and go into the paranormal state of the black conscious mind to go beyond this slavery that we're in right now, under this oppression, this limited perspective, this limited reality. And going to him for our information, as our teacher, as our authority, giving us our credential as our creditor, is not allowing us to escape the limited reality that he continues to present for us, that he continues to keep us in. We have to go outside of that reality. We have to go outside of the white man. We have to go outside of what he has put before us. And we must go inside of ourselves and awaken from inside out. A lot of times people are learning from outside in. The true conscious person learns from inside out. The information comes from inside. Some people say, well, you're just going on Google and, you're just trying to find out what you already know. You're not doing no real scholarship. You're just going on Google and find. No, even an investigator for the FBI goes off of their intuition. They start off with some type of clue or some type of theory about what occurred that comes from inside of their imagination, inside of their selves. And then they begin to put that together to build whatever their case is. Talk to me. And then they use the external world to confirm the notions about what they have that occurred inside of their minds. So clearly they have come to the conclusion that the truth is inside of themselves. And they only use the external world to put it together. They're not looking for truth outside of themselves. Because truth can only be measured by what is inside of you. Truth is not external to you. It is not separate from you. So the truth is already inside of you if it can be reached. If it is something that, if the truth is a point that one can arrive to, it must be within their own selves to be a destination. So the destination to any truth already lies within inside of yourself. And the external world only confirms the internal destinations that one could arrive at. You follow? I hope I'm not going over your head. So yeah, the outside world should confirm what you know that you know that you know. And it's a matter of putting it back together. But if we are too busy using reference points, trying to refer to this crack and refer to them and refer to them, what if our awakening and awareness is deeper than them? It might take them 300 or 400 years to figure out what some people already know for sure. To figure out what is not even questioned by some. Consciousness is a paranormal state. We can talk to each other and build with each other, but it ain't even about the building. It ain't even about the information that we're speaking, because the language that we're speaking is limited. Entertaining the knowing. But the knowing is even beyond that of which we entertain. We are the knowing. When you become conscious, you become the self that knows. And that knows that it knows. And that's simply that. So you're not using the external reality to justify what is known within yourself. And nor can anything in external reality disqualify what you know. When you start getting these paranormal abilities, nothing, people can't tell you no more what you can't do, what we can't do, what we can't achieve. Because you're existing on a paranormal level of consciousness. You're beyond the norm. But let me open up the lines. I went in for a minute.